adjust this a little bit. Okay. Yeah.
Before we start, are you okay with being recorded? I just noticed.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I just told George it would help me to have a recording of it. So just for my notes, I'll take notes too. But I don't take them as fast as I should. Cool. Okay. So you, George, and Megan and Drew, you're the ones who will be on the show.
No, it'll
actually
be
it's gonna be
It'll be
sorry. Me and Jorge. I'm gonna let Jorge talk because he's in charge of this. Yeah. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep talking over each other.
No, you're good, Drew. No worries. Yeah, Megan. Sorry, it's gonna be Megan McLean and Caitlin Martinez that's gonna be on the show.
Awesome. Okay.
And before we get started, we had one question for you. Can this interview at all be remotely done into your show?
Oh yeah, you can join by Zoom.
Yeah. Perfect. That's what we wanted to know. Okay. Sounds good. Great. And we also have Rick Sheen joining us as well on the line so we can get the right questions drafted for you, Megan. But that's good news. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So basically I do this pre-interview with folks ahead of time. So it helps me write my questions in my script. So, like most journalists, we don't get to specialize. So I'm learning a bunch about something before I do the thing, which is about WIPP and LANL, about which I know a bit, but you guys are the experts. So I guess, so this is ahead of the town hall that the feds are doing. I was hoping they would send someone, but they've decided, I said I could do a pre-interview with them and use their tape, but it sounds like they're going to put all their eggs in the town hall. I said I could help drive people to your town hall, but which is too bad because I think it would, obviously they have the bulk of the responsibility, I think, on these sites, but I wanted to do this ahead of that, looking at concerns around WIPP, its future, its mission, and also what that means in terms of, I think, the legacy waste at LANL and the new pit production. So I was hoping you all could begin by helping me understand the state's role as environmental regulators on these sites, because I'm not totally clear on that.
I could start if you want.
Okay.
You want to?
That'd be great.
Hi, Megan McLean. Hi, another Megan. Nice to meet you. Spelled the same too.
Yeah.
So I work in the WIPP group, which is a permitting group under the Hazardous Waste Bureau, which is under the umbrella of the Environment Department. The reason that the WIPP group has and New Mexico has any authority over the facility is through its Hazardous Waste Facility Permit, which is a RCRA, Resource Conservation Recovery Act permit. So the fact that the waste that goes in the underground has a hazardous component makes them have to have that permit. So that's how New Mexico got involved and has regulatory authority over the facility. We don't have authority over the radioactive aspects of the waste. EPA regulates that.
I see. Okay. Now I understand the permit was renewed last year, right?
Yes, it was renewed on October 4th, 2023, became effective November 3rd, 2023.
Okay. For how long?
So it could be up to 10 years. That's what RCRA permits are generally allowed to be up to 10 years. That's allowed in the regulations. We could have limited it, but at this point we haven't. However, we put a new renewal permit condition into the permit at that time that does not allow the facility to ask for more capacity, more waste panels in the underground to emplace waste, unless it comes in as a renewal application.
I see.
RCRA usually would allow that through a class 3 modification, which is slightly simpler, but this is a new renewal condition that we put in. And part of the reason for that is so that when they need new capacity, probably within about 5 years, they will have to do it through a renewal process that has more enhanced public participation requirements.
Okay. And I thought I read, so tell me if I'm wrong, that and I don't even know if the state has the scope to do this, but one of the conditions on the permit renewal was that WIPP would focus on legacy waste that's existing. Okay.
You're correct. And as the host state, New Mexico felt very strongly that we should have priority for the waste that goes into the underground, and that space should be reserved for that waste from New Mexico generator storage sites, Sandia and Lanel. And so there is a new permit condition that prioritizes Lanel waste, and every year the permittees have to certify that there's sufficient capacity in the WIPP underground for the waste from Lanel and Sandia.
Okay.
And then that's one aspect. Sorry to keep going. The other aspect is another renewal condition that's called the Legacy True Waste Disposal Plan. That plan is a year-long project that the permittees are currently involved in, where they are meeting with stakeholders in New Mexico, as well as at generator storage sites around the United States, and also their counterparts at those generator storage sites. The aim of the plan is to define the term legacy, which isn't currently defined in the permit. And across the DOE EM complex, it's there's different meanings depending on what sites you are at. And so, you know, what our aim of this goal is to get the legacy waste from Lanel, right, off the hill. This is part of our effort to make that happen. So at the end of this, there's going to be a comment period. They're going to have to submit a report on what they've learned. And the eventual goal is to understand the inventory of legacy waste all around the country and here at Lanel and Sandia, and to prioritize that waste to the extent practicable in panel 12, which is one of 2 new disposal panels that were authorized in the recent renewal.
When they say panels, tell me what that means. Like, is that
it's like a football sized, well, it's so a panel has 7 rooms. Each room is about the size of a football field, and it is in the underground. They mine in time. They only mine so far ahead of time so that they don't have to do so much ground control to, you know, because it is a salt mine that's creeping. That's the whole point of the waste going there, to permanently entomb it. But it requires a lot of ground control. So they just sort of mine as they go. And when they're, you know, when they need more space, they mine more. And
okay. So right now, this goal to define what legacy waste is, we have it here, of course, at Lanel, maybe to some extent at Sandia, but there are other places around the country that have this, and right now we have the only place that can take that.
We have the only geologic repository in the world that can take nuclear waste right now, and true WIPP can only take defense-related true waste. And the goal at the beginning was to clean up mostly Manhattan Project waste at generator storage sites around the country. For instance, Oak Ridge in Tennessee, Hanford in Washington State. Rocky Flats waste from Colorado got moved up to Idaho. That's on the tail end being cleaned up from where it was buried in Idaho. So yeah, it's a big, you know, this is a national, it's really important nationally as well as for New Mexico. And it's a big, they feel it's a big patriotic mission that they're cleaning up for the country.
Well, I know one of the goals when this was started as a pilot project, there were supposed to be efforts to look for other places.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why we put another renewal permit condition in there about citing another repository for defense-related true waste once WIPP reaches its capacity limit. Its capacity is limited by the Land Withdrawal Act, which is one of its implementing documents, statutes that took aside that land down there. And so it's only allowed to go up to a certain amount of capacity. And once that is reached, the state of New Mexico feels that another repository should be online so that in a state other than New Mexico, so that another state can start fulfilling this patriotic mission.
Okay. Great. I guess this might be a pivot to Caitlin, but maybe still in Megan. So when we're talking about the new pit production, how does this factor into WIPP and capacity and focusing on legacy waste, but potentially this new stream of waste?
I mean, pet production, it's not something that we can really, I guess I'll say the waste coming to WIPP has to meet the waste acceptance criteria in the permit. And if it meets that, then it can be accepted as long as it's under the capacity limit.
Okay.
We do understand that New Mexicans are very interested in prioritizing the legacy as opposed to newly generated waste from pit production. And that's why we introduced that legacy waste disposal plan condition with prioritizing waste in panel 12 as much as possible.
I see. Well, Caitlin, let me ask you same kinds of questions, like what is NMED's role in terms of regulating Lanol's legacy waste and its new waste stream potentially from pit production?
Yeah, so Lanol's regulated under 2 documents, really. So all this new pit production
she froze.
expansion.
Oh, there we go. You froze for a minute.
Can you hear me? Okay. And then everything with the legacy waste we handle under the consent order, which is just a mutual party agreement between the Department of Energy and the state of New Mexico for cleaning up that legacy waste from Manhattan area. So 2 different regulatory bodies that kind of govern that for our side.
I missed the first part. I'm sorry. Can you say that again? You were blanked out.
The first side is the hazardous waste facility permit. So similar to what Megan's talking about, they have one just for their facility and for newly generated waste that will happen, with pit expansion. So all that's handled under conditions on a permit for disposal requirements, and everything legacy is kind of separated from that permit.
I see. Okay. And how often are the permits renewed?
Same 10-year is our usual span. So we are waiting on Lanol's permit application, renewal application. So we're expecting that soon, and we'll begin going through the next phases of that permit application renewal.
Oh, okay. That's the one that's due sometime this fall. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the process in terms of the renewal application? Is that the same? Is there a public comment period? Is there, or is that only for a new permit?
There is public facilitation that we'll do. I double check the regs before I give you a solid answer.
Oh, okay.
Exactly what that'll look like, but we will facilitate public participation, and same as Megan was talking about, when we do have modifications to the existing permit, class 2 or class 3 modifications, we do public participation under those activities in the interim too.
Okay. All right. And in terms of So I know there are a lot of pits, because we decommissioned a lot of weapons sitting in, for instance, Pantex. And so the plutonium from those can be brought, I'm not sure what has to happen to them, but they are brought to Savannah or Lanel or both, and then come back here to go to WIPP. Is that what I understand?
I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've had the I had a presentation on it a couple years ago. It's been a while, but yeah, basically there's waste at Pantex, and it basically it needs to go to Lanel, and then it goes to Savannah River to get packaged. Lanel turns it into the oxide, I think, and then it goes to Savannah River, and they package it, and then it comes to WIPP.
Okay.
The transportation segments where it goes from Pantex to Lanel, that's not part of the WIPP transportation system. It's something. It's very secure. I forgot the name of it, but it's like a high level military operation that's happening. So very secure transport that is happening.
Because
at that point, it's not
overland, I'm assuming. Oh, okay.
Yeah. At that point, it's not considered waste, so it doesn't really fall into our purview.
Oh, okay. It's not considered waste till it is coming back to go to WIPP.
Until it's at Savannah, yeah, I think at Savannah River, and then they're packaging it, then it's waste, and then it falls into the WIPP transportation realm.
Oh, I see. In terms of, so the transportation to WIPP, is that, and the transportation routes, is that fall under NMED's regulatory overview?
No, not our regulatory authority. The transportation is the MNERD, actually, the New Mexico Energy Minerals Resource Department has a WIPP task force and also emergency responder training, and they are all involved in the transportation WIPP transportation sector and ensure that it is safe and that it's monitored. And it's a very robust transportation system with many backups and lots of checks, lots of inspections.
How often is there a schedule of transportation of waste to WIPP? Like a regular?
There is a rolling schedule that we receive, but that's not public knowledge, just for security purposes.
Got it. Okay. Caitlin, some of the folks who've reached out to us are concerned in terms of Lanel and the legacy waste. And I don't know if this is under your purview, but how it's being stored in these tents right now, which, are near a national forest that has been known to burn. So there's some concern about how that's done and the safety of it. Is that something NMED oversees or permits, or?
Yeah, in their facility permit, they have permitted storage areas for certain types of waste. So where they're temporarily storing waste is one of those storage facilities that have the same, inspection requirements, and they do, regular safety precautions in the event there is fire hazard in the area.
Okay, so that's something you guys would oversee. Is that well, I mean, I know it's a gigantic facility, but is that ever a concern with state regulators, that is this temporarily being stored kind of outside? And
well, they're stored in permitted areas, so they're like stored in places that have those protective mechanisms, and they have policies in place in the event that there is hazards like a fire. Then they have emergency response mechanisms for the waste. They do have procedures to protect the storage of that waste in the event of natural.
Okay. All right. I mean, I know I guess I'm bouncing between you two. The original permit, because it has pilot in the name for WIPP, was supposed to be through this year, right? Obviously, it's going beyond that.
So I can address that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the also one of the reasons that we wanted to have a renewal sooner than later and added that condition. Basically, when WIPP was first envisioned, they, based on the amount of waste that they were looking at around the complex, their estimate of it, and their estimate of how long, it would take to fill waste, they estimated that the operating period of the facility would be 25 years. So in 1999, that would make it 2024. However, this was not put into any permit condition. It was in descriptive language in the permit, and it was always referred to as the anticipated closure date. So, NMED looked at that, but there was no way to regulatorily require them to close in 2024. However, NMED does feel strongly that they cannot go over their Land Withdrawal Act capacity limit. And that is something that we can point to, that is in the permit, that is a federal law that they have to abide by. So that's what we look at, and and we will be taking it slowly when these new renewals come in to understand what kind of inventory is left around the country, how much longer is how much longer of an operating period do they actually need. So we are trying to just take things slowly and look at things carefully as we permit new panels going forward.
I wanted to ask you mentioned that before, Land Withdrawal Act. Can you explain what that is?
That was the statute that set aside the land so that WIPP could be in southern New Mexico, set aside the land for the federal government so that the facility could be sited at that spot.
I see.
And it has a few limiting limits in it on what kind of waste can go there. For instance, like waste from nuclear power plants, high level waste cannot go there. It's only for defense related true waste. And like I mentioned, they have to stick to that capacity limit that's in there. There's other items as well.
Okay. All right. Are there other things I haven't touched on you think I should be asking in this conversation?
I mean, I think it was kind of an amazing effort during renewal for the parties to all come together and have successful negotiations. And especially I think all the relationships were maintained and improved during that process. And everyone, I think, felt that they got something that they wanted out of it. The permittees, were able to get 2 more panels and keep their facility open for longer. Southern stakeholders were able to streamline a couple permit conditions that they thought were a little onerous for the facility. We made, we adjusted the language to make it easier for the facility to comply in some circumstances. The northern stakeholders got a lot of conditions, like the legacy plan in there, having the new capacity to come in through renewal. And then NMED had a lot of these similar concerns, as well as a lot of safety concerns that we added to really strengthen our authority to have oversight over safety aspects of the facility.
Okay. All right. Well, I will have, I'm sure you know Don.
Yeah,
Don Hancock.
Well, talk to him probably bi-weekly. He's a great guy.
And I'll have Mariah Gomez. We'll have, hopefully, callers, emailers. It's always a crapshoot if they will. So
Who's
there might
Mariah
be
Gomez?
Oh, she's a professor here at UNM, and she grew up in the Poake Valley. She wrote a book called Nuclear Nuevo Mexico or Mexico.
Oh.
So she's an advocate, pretty forceful. And yeah, feels strongly about how the entire nuclear project has impacted New Mexico. Has relatives who work at the lab. So yeah, so it's an array of perspectives, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I guess we will not have any feds. I was kind of hoping they'd come in a little bit, but so that's all I can think of right now. If you all have materials or documents, and I can add stuff to our web post that's up right now that you think that would be helpful information for people, I can add things like that.
Okay.
Other things you might refer to. And I can send Jorge the Zoom link for Thursday morning. So I'm assuming you guys are probably in Santa Fe, maybe, or other places in the state. Okay.
Yeah, we're both up in Santa Fe.
Okay. All right, great. Is anything else I can answer?
It's an hour, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Indeed. Okay, cool.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. And Megan, I will send you that the link here in just a minute.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks all. Appreciate it.
Great,
Thank you.
thank
Look forward to
Appreciate
it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.